What's up, y'all? It's Dr. Paul with Liberty Hill Comics. Welcome. You are joining the Comic Book Conservation Live Show, episode 46. Hope everybody enjoyed their week off. Hope your team sport ball was fine. Glad to be back and glad to have my two co-hosts as usual. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, man. Over here chilling in the undisclosed location in Texas Hill Country.
Oh, I'll disclose where I'm at. I'm in Shanghai, China. It's 9:30 in the morning, 9:35 in the morning.
Oh, nice.
So greetings to you both.
Good morning.
See that sun really shining on you.
Yeah, I can sit there and go like that, yeah.
Nice.
Well, welcome, Captain Larry. Let everybody know where they can find you when you're not in Shanghai.
You can find me at flyingoutcomics.com. Easiest way to get a hold of me is on Instagram or Facebook in our Facebook community at our conservation site. But Instagram's the most direct method to get a hold of me.
Absolutely. And Phil, Phantom Restoration, say hi to everyone. Let them know where they can find you. Thank you for joining me.
Hey, sorry, I'm probably sounding a little, I'm a little congested right now. I'm still getting over this cold and like swollen lymph nodes, and it's no joke. So be safe out there, everyone, and just try not to get this.
But stay away from Phil.
Yeah, don't come near me.
Well, you guys were both sick since the last time we've been on air.
Yeah, I got laid out pretty well for a couple of days as well.
Yeah.
One good thing about being a hermit. I don't get sick very often.
True.
But
as always,
coming to you live from the border of Brooklyn and Queens here in New York City, and
the studio,
the
studio, where it's happening, where it's all happening.
Yes.
Well, as I alluded to, we were off last week. I think there was I don't know, a game of some sort, some kind of sport ball thing happening. I didn't watch. I didn't care. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird. Well, we know I'm weird, so it's fine.
It was fun. I don't really watch a lot of sports, so it's always an excuse to at least once a year watch a game. So
yeah, I did that for a lot of years, and then I finally was just like, yeah, actually, I have better things to do. I literally do. But I'm glad
I just watched the commercials.
Yeah, and that's actually what I've been doing for the last decade, the commercials and the halftime show. And then even those weren't enough to keep my attention. But, for those of you that enjoy it, good. I'm glad. I'm certainly not a gatekeeper on that kind of stuff. So we have an exciting show,
Yay!
2 segments, and a fun book that we've talked about a couple of times. And we had a bit of it's a rare Golden Age book, Action 52. It's important
I'm familiar with that.
to me. It's important to some other folks. Captain Larry had a copy that he conserved and showed us recently. So we're a little bit treading familiar ground, which in a way is nice, actually. So we're going to talk about that in the A segment. We're going to give an update on this book right here, which launched on Amazon this past week, debuted.
Very nice.
Number 1 new release in 2 different categories, which is just phenomenal. We've just been so overwhelmed with everybody's generosity and graciousness, and Shelby and I are very humbled by the success of the book so far, and we want to keep that train rolling. So we'll just give a brief update on that. And then Phil's got a great B segment for us, a real banger of a Golden Age cover. So I'm looking forward to that.
Fun wartime book.
Yeah, so we got 2 wartime books today.
That's right.
So let's do some quick shout outs to everybody. And our show today is not sponsored. The last time we were on air, we didn't have any super stickers. So we don't have any sponsors to announce, but let's give everybody shout outs. Buddy Hugo Danner's here. Hey, Mike, what's up, man? Oh, yeah. Saturday Night Live is somehow on Sunday night this week, right? So I don't know if you're missing Sunday Night Live to see our show. Welcome. Glad you're here. Hello, Rick Nestor. Hi, AG. Thank you for joining and for all of your support. Don Carter, another regular supporter, long time. Silver Spidey's here. Hello, JCP's here. Glad to see you in real time. The professor says, hola, everybody. Collecting
Hola.
Chaos says, howdy, howdy. My buddy Jason, the Archivist Adrift, is here. The professor says, I work with students, but I'm super vaccinated. Of course you are. You're a scientist. And that's what we do. We follow the science. Comics are more interesting than sports to some of us. And actually, for me, it actually depends on the sport. So there are some sports I think are more interesting than comics, at least in terms of live. My esteemed co-author, Shelby's here. What's up, Shelby? And David Schaefer's here. Hey, David. We've mentioned you a few times on the show when we talked about your All-Star Collection getting a award from the CGC Registry. And I think we mentioned him once more recently about a book that he won, maybe. But anyway, good to see you here. Right. Well, without further ado, Vulu's here. Welcome, Vulu. Let's jump into our A segment because it's fun, and I love this cover. I love.
That's an awesome cover.
We're going to talk. You guys have heard me talk about the Richard O'Brien book, The Golden Age of Comic Books. It was very influential to me as a young collector. It's one of the first books about the Golden Age, and it features 40 full cover reproductions. I think they're actually even slightly larger than 1-to-1 scale of Golden Age covers, and it just mesmerized me, and I just looked at it over and over again. This book is, of course, the cover book to O'Brien's book. I'll show it later in the in this deck, in the last image of the A segment here. But it's always held a special spot for me, and I think a lot of other Golden Age collectors. What's really special about this particular copy is this is the Rockford copy. So the Rockford copy showed up in a conserved grade at auction in the past week. We're going to talk about this book, what it hammered for, maybe what it should have hammered for. We're going to talk a little bit about pedigrees. We're going to talk a little bit about the Rockford pedigree specifically. So, I have a couple of books to show off, pedigree books.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
We'll just jump right in. Hey, sales boy, what's happening? So, what are pedigrees? So pedigrees are collections, special collections that are recognized for their excellence. And because of that, people seek them out. Collectors want to hold a copy that once sat in one of these collections. So pedigree collections have been around since before CGC, but like many things now, CGC is the main sort of caretaker in a lot of ways of this hobby now. And CGC has identified these 4 specific criteria. They will evaluate new collections that come to light based on these criteria. And on occasion, they name a new pedigree. They currently recognize 61 pedigrees. And Phil, was the Promise collection the last one that they recognized as a pedigree?
As far as I know.
I think so, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So the 61st one was the Promise collection, and that was about 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years ago now. Mm-hmm. So they don't come up, they don't sort of, haphazardly name collections as pedigrees. So the 4 criteria that have been established, it must be an original owner collection, meaning everybody knows that I'm putting together an all-star collection. Even if I put together the most epic all-star collection of all time, that's never going to be a pedigree, right? Yeah. Because I didn't buy them from the newsstand first for a dime and collect them that way. This is similar to other collectible hobbies. Like, for example, one of the other collectible hobbies I dabble in is collectible cars. And, an original owner Corvette is a special Corvette. People will pay more money for an original owner Corvette or a one family Corvette than they will for a car that's been bought and sold 20 times in the last 40 years. Just people like that. Another thing is it must be vintage, right? So similarly, I can't just go buy every copy of every comic that's being published today. And I mean, I guess at some point way down in the future, that will be vintage, but it's not going to get me a Pedigree collection today. Maybe it'll get my kids a Pedigree collection 40 years from now. It needs to be a large collection. Large is relative. Yeah. There are a few collections recognized as pedigrees that only have a few hundred copies. So that's relative, but the largest ones have well over 10,000 copies in them. And lastly, it must be high grade. So all of these are relative, right? Like if you have an amazingly high grade collection, but it's not super large, it's relatively small number of books, that could overcome and you could still be considered a pedigree collection, right? So all these things are taken into account. And then again, this isn't something that CGC invented, but they've kind of taken it over by putting these rules around it and defining it. And they're now kind of the main caretakers of the list of pedigrees. So what are we talking about today? Well, before we do that, let's just do, I'll do this. This is actually the Rockford copy. So this is a pedigree right here.
Are you going to get that reholdered?
I'm actually considering it. In fact, I'm thinking about taking it to Sarasota because I have a trip coming up to Sarasota. And I think I'm going to probably get this reholdered. And for those of you that don't know why, I'll show you why in just a moment. This one was slabbed quite a long time ago. It does indicate that it's the Rockford copy right here, but it's not very prominent.
Yeah.
And it's a 9. Yeah, it's a 9.2. And this came from the exact same collection as the book we're talking about today.
Oh, cool.
And
Nice.
this is my personal copy for my registry collection of All-Star for the first adventure of the JSA, right? So they appear in All-Star Comics number 3, but they just have a meeting, like a board meeting, and they discuss solo adventures that they've had. And then let's do this. And so this is why I might consider getting it reholdered.
I just like the label.
Yeah. So the first Pedigree collection ever recognized was the Edgar, what we call today the Edgar Church collection. Some people still call it the Mile High collection. It was discovered by Chuck Rosansky of Mile High Comics, and it was brought to market by him. That collection was the first collection that pretty much everybody recognized as very special, and it essentially the first pedigree. Yep. Other collections since then have been compared against it, and it is kind of the gold standard of pedigrees, I think, in many people's minds. It's also the largest collection. The marketplace generally places a premium on pedigree comics because of the provenance. Again, just because collectors want them, they prefer them over the same grade of a non-pedigree. And that's why CGC has come to recognize it, because collectors, they largely reflect back the collector hobby and all the different stakeholders in it, right? So this special label that you see here is their current label for pedigrees. And you'll see that this is my personal copy of All-Star Comics number 9. And it's a 9.0. And this is the Mile High copy.
Very nice.
Yeah. So I am fortunate enough to have 4 pedigree books in my All-Star collection. I have 2 All-Stars. I have the Rockford that I just showed you. And I also have the Carson City copy for number 1. which Phil and Larry have both seen, but I didn't drag out for today's show. So that's all background. Let's talk a little bit more about the Rockford pedigree. It originates from Rockford, Illinois. The collection spans 1938 to 1952. There are just under 2,000 copies, just under 2,000 books in the collection. Unfortunately, most of the number ones are missing. There's some speculation that all the number ones were in one box and that it went missing at some point. I don't know if a police report was ever filed. I've heard that it was stolen, but regardless, it's missing most number ones. So the most significant books in it are actually big first appearances that aren't number ones, like Tech 27 and More Fun 53. So there are Rockford copies for those two books. This is the Rockford copy for Tech 27, the most significant book in the collection. This sold, I want to say in 22. It's definitely sold in the last 5 years for just under $750,000, which actually seems like a bargain for a 6.0. That's
it looks like a 7.5.
Yeah, that's sub $1 million these days. Yeah. It's sold with this label too. Again, I think that that black and gold sort of, it used to be a tuxedo, but now it's like a gold tuxedo label. They just seem to bring higher hammer prices, right? Like they look more special. And I think it just, people are people when they're bidding. You see something that just looks a little more special and you hit bid one more time, right? So anyway, beautiful book, the most significant book in the Rockford pedigree. Jason, thank you so much. Archivist Adrift is just
thank you, Jason.
Pledged $10.
Thank
He's
you.
the sponsor of our next show. He says CGC marks slabs as having belonged to Christine Farrell, but was her collection pedigree, seeing as she wasn't the original buyer?
No.
Good question.
No.
In addition to pedigrees, they do collections. And she was, in fact, as you say, a collection. So not a pedigree. I think the very first collection was actually the Fantast collection. That's the first one they recognized as a collection. I can't keep up with them. They seem to be adding collections pretty quickly.
The Nick Cage definitely preceded that.
It did.
And there are, but I think for like the official label.
I think Nick Cage has kind of been grandfathered in as a collection now. It initially just said Nick Cage copy as kind of a pedigree. And then they officially launched the collection. And of course, our buddy Jeff Itkin has a collection that he's found that they market. I know the folks, actually, they're Michiganders, the folks that brought the Fantast collection to the market. And, now there are quite a few collections. So the bar is much easier. The big difference is a collection doesn't have to be an original owner. So all the other things are more or less still true about a collection. So Christine Farrell, she bought all those in the secondhand market, essentially. She wasn't going down to the drugstore and dropping a dime on the counter for those comic books. She bought them as collectibles later, and that's what makes that a collection. All right. Yeah. Salesboy says, couch change. So let's get back to action number 52. Only 46 universal copies of this in the census, which is crazy to me. How are there not more copies of this? 12 restored. This says 1 conserved, but I think the census doesn't have your conserved copy in yet, Larry.
No, I don't think that is mine. Where is that conserved?
That's the one we're talking about today, the 6.5. Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah, because mine's a conserved. It's a 3.0 though.
Yeah. So this should have one more conserved copy. It will soon. I'm sure they'll update it soon enough. Just a rare book. A median grade is 5.0 on this book. And obviously September 1942. So the war effort is really getting kicked up, and obviously a very patriotic cover here. It's just a great book. Just a great book. So this specific copy, 7.0. Oh, I'm sorry. So this is our establishment copy. This is what is fair market value. So this isn't the pedigree copy. This is the last sale of a comp. So this book sold in the last year. This is a 7.0 white pages, beautiful, stunning copy here. Obviously universal. Comments say Origin of the Vigilante retold. These are fun. Mr. America and Fat Man become the Americamandos.
Nice.
There was no such thing as PC just yet, boys and girls. Greater notes indicate spine stress lines, reader's crease back cover, multiple tanning shadows on the back cover, tear with crease, left top of front cover. Really presents well. You see that chip out of the bottom right edge there is really the only defect you can see at arm's length on the front cover. This sold June of last year for $3,720. I think it being a spectacular presenting copy and having white pages really put it at the top of class. So that is our benchmark. This is such a rare book. It just hasn't sold in 6.5 in a long time. Universal. In fact, I couldn't find a single tract, or maybe I could, but it was 2011. It's been a long time. So what I did was I just did a linear regression. 6.5 comes in around 3,400, I think. Yeah. So that's the benchmark. And here's our book. Now, this presents nearly as well as the last book.
Yeah, look, it was gorgeous.
And especially the front cover, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful colors. You do see on the back, bottom right there, what looks to me to be a tape stain. And when we get to the grader's notes, I think that's where our main defect is and why this book is graded conserved. It also, guys, I'm sorry, I put the wrong.
Oh, these are the grader notes for the 7.
Grader's notes. May have to do it from, I'll tell you what, I'm just going to read it from my computer because I have it here. I apologize.
All good.
Somehow that snuck by my editor. Oh, I'm the editor. Yeah. Well, we do what we can.
We're on the human.
So pages here are off white to white. It is conserved, as we mentioned. Graders, the label text reads, conservation includes tear seals to cover. And then the grader's notes indicate small tear with crease, right center of front cover, spine stress lines, tape stain, bottom of spine, pedigree coating, left center of front cover. And again, I apologize for that. But here you can see that stain. And the pedigree that they're talking about is in the C of Action Comics. There's an S stamp. And Rockford's, Rockfords are known for having this stamp. My Rockford has a very faint stamp. It's blue ink in the blue fields. You can't really see it, which is why I didn't spend a lot of time trying to show you. But that's one of the identifying characteristics of a Rockford copy. So, in my opinion, beautiful, beautiful copy. I don't know what you guys think about this. Again, this sold in the past week. What do you guys want to venture guesses? First, tell me what you think of this book, and then let's do some guesses.
I think the book, the front cover is gorgeous. The tape removal stain at the bottom of the back is unfortunate, but it is what it is. But one thing I really wish that they could do is have a conserved, pedigree label. But I guess that's too much to ask because it's going to be. There's probably not a lot of conserved pedigrees.
Yeah, it's a weird spot.
It is.
Yeah,
but I don't think
even though it's a pedigree,
I mean, they have signature series for restored books.
Yeah, they do.
Why shouldn't they have pedigree? Why shouldn't they have pedigree for conserved? I think over time they will have that, and you may want to get this reslabbed when they do.
I think I think this is a really, really good example of how CGC grades staining harsher than they do a literal piece missing. Especially so, like looking, I'm just to not to like poo-poo CGC, but to a clear distinction. I think there's probably some people that would have stayed away from the 7 Universal because of that piece missing. They were like, in my 7s, there's no pieces missing. There's like spine stress, maybe a crease, something like that. But to some people, that's unacceptable. CGC gave it a 7, which I think is fair. But in this case, in my opinion, if that was a 7, I think this is at least a 7 too. It just looks so nice from the front cover.
It really presents well.
I'm just remiss for. Well, you know what? I guess there's a little bit of color break on the right. Maybe a 6.5 is fair. It just
that other one had a whole piece missing though.
Exactly. That's my point.
It did.
Like, it just seems like that can't be an equal trade-off. As all the paper there, but some staining.
I wonder
should be counted less than something actually missing.
I wonder if the rationale behind that is that the stain indicates something that really shouldn't be there, and that additive things are worse than losses, right? And maybe, they don't know. They're not doing a chemical analysis. Maybe the stain is something nasty that's going to destroy the book. Maybe the stain is, precancerous. I don't know. Just trying to sort of rationalize why that would be the case. I'm with you.
But on an individual
I'm on record here. I have a very difficult time grading stains. When people ask me to grade a book, I'm pretty confident in my ability to grade a book generally.
Stains
the book is stained, I always kind of say, I'll add plus or minus 2 to my grade and go somewhere in there because I agree with you. I've also been sort of flummoxed by how they deal with stains. But
to be fair, I think if you don't compare the books and you look at them too, like the 7 is a 7 and the 6.5, looking at everything, you can make the argument. It's just when you go to compare, then you start to see these things. So it's not unreasonable, but it's always intriguing. And anyway.
I'm laughing at Jason always makes me laugh at least once each show. So we got Rick Nestor in at 2100, Vulu at 2200, Don Carter at 1900, the Professor's in at 1750. Jason says, such a nice book, but Superman has super speed. So is he just running at normal speed so they keep up with him? Yeah, he's a team player, man.
Yeah. Or
this is 1 nanosecond after they said go, and he's only opened up a 10-foot gap on the rest of the team, something like that, maybe. And then Jason's coming in at 1751 just to snipe the Professor. Salesboy is in at 1850. Collecting Chaos says, I generally start grading stained books at a 5.0. I may go up a little if the rest of the book is exceptional. Usually I end up going down. Yeah, I think this is part of that thing we've talked about before. Like, CGC has a difficult job because not everybody grades defects the same way. Like, for example, I really don't like loose centerfolds. For me, a loose centerfold, a detached centerfold, that for me personally, I put it like around a 4. I know that CGC you can get like a 7 with a loose centerfold.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah, I don't get that.
So I recognize if somebody asks me,
perfect, I get it.
Yeah, if somebody asks me like, what is this book? I can tell them it's a 7. But for me personally, I don't really want that book in my collection. I just don't like loose centerfolds, right? So I get it. Like, some people don't like stains. And, there's going to be things we don't all agree universally on, right?
Yep. Not all defects are created equal.
Yeah. Hugo Danner's in at 2800. John Scamardo, welcome, 2100. And Collecting Chaos references the Overstreet standards. So analog. So analog. Right? Remember when that was all we had?
I'm going to come in, and I'll probably offend some people, but I'm going to come in lower than anybody else. I'm going to come in around $900.
$900. You gonna make a guess, Phil? I'm gonna reveal it here.
All right, I guess I'll make the last one. So let me tally up everyone else's so I can make the most. I'm gonna go with my gut and say like this probably got. I mean, I got a bump from what it would have normally been without the pedigree. But I know some people, especially a lot of golden age buyers or purists, and that could kill it. I'm gonna go $1,400.
Come on. Maurice, I'm sorry, Morris Devereaux got in at 1,100. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
I just saw him on Rick Morgan's channel, Immaculate Comics, and I've been saying Morris, he's been a long time supporter of the channel and viewer of Liberty Hill Comics, friend of the channel. And I've been announcing his name every week as Maurice Devereaux, but I think he pronounces it Morris.
Well, you pronounce it like an American would, you know.
Yeah, well, but I got Devereaux correct. Well, 1320.
Nice.
Oh, look!
I knew it was lower than what everybody was guessing. I just didn't know.
This is pure Canadian right here. Ooh, sorry, my name is difficult to say. Just pronounce it however you like.
Now you're making fun of Canadians.
No, I'm not. I love Canadians. I'm just doing my best Canadian voice. He doesn't speak like that at all, by the way. Yeah, what a crazy. I mean,
Yep.
The Rockford copy, people.
It's the console label and the purists. You know, you gotta admit
They don't want that conserved label.
I think it's also kind of
this sold at auction too, right?
Yeah.
So there you go.
This
like,
was
if you were to
heritage.
put this, if the owner of this put it up at a buy it now for $2,000 or make an offer, they probably could have got closer to that because you're finding the people that don't care about the conserve. But at auction, you know, unless you're tracking this book and it comes up, people might see it, but then they're like, "Oh, tear seals. I don't know how what's the extent of that? What does that mean?" And then
so look at this. It's like less than 40% of what I estimated a universal sale. Of course, you know, again, there's not that many sales. It's very difficult to establish a true fair market value. It's just a rare commodity. There are not that many of them out there. There are also only a handful of people chasing them. So take that for what it's worth. Here is the O'Brien cover.
Cool. Yep.
Next to the book.
Paul, that said Tales of Suspense.
I know. I did my deck. It's the correct. It's the correct graph.
Okay.
But thank you for pointing that out.
No problem.
I didn't do my normal review of my deck before I published it today. So I had a couple goofs. I'm human. So here it is on the cover of O'Brien's book, the poster child, as it were. O'Brien could have put any cover on the cover of his book. He chose this one, right? And there's some true bangers in the 40 color reproductions he has there. He chose this one.
Makes sense.
It's a cool cover, man.
It really pops out with the black background of the book too. Against like the layout was already just a killer layout to have a kid see that on the newsstand and want to choose this book. So that's what he's
to have the flag. You know, it evokes the golden age in a way that not a lot of other covers do. Our B segment's going to evoke the golden age in a very different way from this cover. JCP says, did conservation include deacidification? We don't know. I think
because that's something they don't notate.
I think it unlikely. Only because I think deacidification probably would have lessened some of the staining on the back a bit more, but really impossible to say.
Yeah.
Guerrilla Productions, welcome to the show. Thanks for shouting out the Canadian flag.
Paul, can I ask a question? I think I have an idea,
course,
but just
May.
for viewers too. The Golden Age of comic books. When was this published?
40
76, I want to say. No, we're talking about the book.
'Cause I-
the
'cause
book
I was
there.
thinking-
O'Brien's
yeah,
book.
In terms of
okay.
him also deciding to have Superman on the cover, probably because, you know, at
Yeah.
the time Superman really's popularity was probably a bit higher than it is now because he's still.
Oh, absolutely.
The movies. Oh, when did the movies come out? Shortly after this, then.
Yeah, Shelby says
Forgive me.
1977. Thanks, Shelby.
Yeah.
Yeah, this book. It features. It's a really interesting book. It features a lot of the big Golden Age keys for DC. But it's very heavy on Fiction House. It's very heavy on Eisner and Lou Fine covers, and it's got a lot of wartime covers. At this point, that period post-war that we now lump in with the Golden Age, was it the Atomic Age? It was a Limbo Age. And so in 1977, when this book was published, the Golden Age really basically meant from the publication of Action 1 up till the end of World War II. So that's the period this book covers. And you see there, it says 1937 to 1945, right?
Yeah.
So current parlance, a lot of people include all the way up to 1955 in the Golden Age. I personally prefer the Atomic Age from about I don't know, depends on where you want to do your cutoff, but sometime post-war, up until the beginning of the Silver Age is pretty clear in 1956. So that period I think of as the Atomic Age. But yeah, I think there's a lot of covers he could have chosen here. I do think it makes sense, and probably it's not even a choice maybe he made. This may have been an editorial decision, right? Yeah. They may have said this one will have more mass appeal. Hard to say, but yeah, great book. If I recommend the Golden Age of comic books to everybody. If you don't own a copy of this, you can buy used copies on eBay for $10 plus shipping. Own a copy of this book. It's just such a great book. David says, a seller on the CGC board, Nearmint is the name of the seller, I believe. Had a 9.0 copy last year. I don't think it sold. I don't remember the asking price. Yeah. That would have been very high in the census. It's just such a rare book. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. That was my A segment. We did, lately I've been doing a little divergence, a little bit more than just what did it sell for, a little history lesson. I kind of enjoy putting those together. So sorry I didn't do a better job editing my slides. I will flog myself later and then do better.
Make sure you make a video of it, though.
that'll be the best video on the channel for a month at least. That'll get more traffic than anything else. Shelby says he got his copy of the O'Brien book for $5. So nice. Yeah, absolutely. Go get a copy. It's great. Speaking of Shelby, let's just do a little segue before our B segment and give an update to everybody. So we got this thing listed on Amazon in the past week, and anybody who's interested, I'll put a link in the description and also pin a comment with a link to buy the book direct from Amazon. Somewhat ironically, and I apologize to those of you who backed the Kickstarter. It's available on Amazon before you got your Kickstarter copy. Well, you did, of course, get the digital copy already. So I do apologize for that. It's just a quirk of the printing process with Amazon. Those of you that opted for the deluxe edition, we knew there was going to be a delay anyway, because it just takes longer to print a really high quality book. So if you are wondering about when you will get your copy, announcements have gone out. There are also announcements in the Facebook the Facebook group, Comic Book Conservation Book. as well as your email. And you can always email us at libertyhillpress@gmail.com as well, and we'll answer any questions you have. We debuted #1 new release in 2 different categories, and we've more or less been hanging out in the top 10 for 3 different categories for the book, for the soft cover, and they do consider the sales figures separate for the soft cover and the hardcover. So I think we would be ranked even higher if they pooled them, which I don't know why they don't, but whatever. So anyway, I just want to say thanks to everybody. I wanted to say, if you don't have your copy yet, you can get it on Amazon now. I think they're showing, like, for hardcovers, you order it, you'll have it in about 4 days if you're in the US. For paperback, if you order a copy, you'll have it in about 2 days in the US. Again, I apologize to folks overseas. I wish that Amazon was faster for you, but it is what it is. We're just living in the world that Amazon created now. But thank you to everybody for your support. Thank you for everybody that contributed to it. And we are getting excited to send out physical stuff for the backers of the Kickstarter. And Shelby and I are going to be getting together very soon to send you your signed copies and, you know, put little inscriptions in them or whatever you asked for. So thank you. Thank you. Exciting.
Hold on.
Very good.
Yeah, lastly, I want to say thank you to those of you that did a review on Amazon. If you have read your digital copy or you already have a physical copy because you ordered it from Amazon, we would really appreciate you giving us a positive review on Amazon. If you have anything negative to say about the book, email it directly to Shelby, please. All right. Let's see. Let's move on to our B segment. What a cool cover. Man. I bet
This
you
cover's
loved
really
it.
grown on me.
I thought you'd
I'll
love
be
to
honest.
own this book, Captain.
I would. Yeah,
Yeah,
I would.
this is
definitely
right
like
up
that.
your alley.
Yep.
My only bias is that this one, for a while, I was like, yeah, it's cool, but I liked other covers more. Like the cover to issue 4 and 5, or 3 and 4, unless I'm messing that up. It's either 3 and 4 or 4 and 5. They're like the two. The one that has the Nazi Knight Rider, and then the other one that has the classic Captain Swastika with the that one's the top dog one. So this one always kind of I was put to the side, but honestly,
It's lost a little bit. Yeah.
Working on this copy and seeing it in hand, I was like, damn, the color, like just the color layout, like the layout, the detail, the everything about it is so badass. It really is.
Well, I'm pretty sure there's a Hangman cover in O'Brien as well. Just, to tie it together.
So, okay, so
go ahead.
So this book came in a little while back as a 2.5 C1 restored copy for some restoration, removal, and tape removal. So I guess just a few notes about the book. It's from MLJ Magazines. It was published in the spring of '43. So this is a wartime book and a single staple book from wartime. They really, I think it was starting in '43. You really started to see more books with single staples since they were conserving metal for the war effort.
Yeah. For those that don't know, MLJ are the publishers of Archie Comics, and the company was it still exists today. It was later renamed Archie Comics. Archie first appears in Pep, which was one of their anthology books. And they did a lot of superheroes in the Golden Age. If you watch Riverdale, all the references to the Black Hood and the Red Circle, those are all Easter eggs for those of us that know. Those are all references to Golden Age superheroes and Golden Age comics. Archie's Archie and Pals are the only ones that survived. And but it's kind of cool to know that sort of history and that this company still exists today, even though they don't produce material like this anymore.
Yeah, not quite. Also, just a fun note, and shout out to the artist Terry Lucy. Look at how tastefully he put his signature in, just at like the feet of the hangman. You know, he in one of the bricks there. It's like it's so subtle you wouldn't notice until you look for it. But man, that kind of stuff, you're like, these were comic books, but the detail here is undeniable. And he had, you know, he viewed his work highly, and he was proud of his work, and that's his.
And you know, not all of the comic book companies were allowing their artists to sign work at the time. So shout out to MLJ for allowing the artist to be credited here.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. So what were we talking here, right? So just as another highlight on the label notes, it says cover reattached with glue and tape on cover. And we've gone over several books with cover reattached with glue. You know, Larry here just went over a book that had that and found out sometimes I think actually the book that you worked on, Larry, just said small amount of glue on cover. It didn't actually say cover reattached.
That was a lie.
Yeah, so it just goes to show sometimes that even the CGC graders are human, and they're looking at what's in front of them, and sometimes they're just trying to tell the story, and they can't tell it as good as we know, because we're working on the books and disassembling them and working, you know, doing more than just looking. So here you can see the tape. It's a little subtle, so I just kind of tried to highlight there on the right. You can see a clear line. Yeah. Thankfully, this wasn't, and we talked about tape too on this channel. This was tape from the more modern era. So thankfully, you know, looking at this, I was able to surmise very easily that it should come off with very little to no color loss. You know, so it's to be expected. It's going to happen sometimes, but it seemed like a sure bet for a safe removal here. And then here's just a little bit more in the back cover, much more apparent there all along the spine.
Yeah, wow. And that's not even part of the restoration, right?
No.
For those of you not in the know, CGC doesn't even count the tape as restoration. So in addition to the restoration removal, you have this tape removal. I assume
so
to tackle.
The book didn't get a purple label because of the tape. It was because of the glue, which we'll see now. So I wish I'd taken more photos. I work on so many books. Sometimes I'm able to get more comprehensive ones. But at the very least, I had one photo to show the glue. So this is, you're looking at the book. This is actually a before and after too, so you can see it better. This is the last page in the inside of the back cover. And on the left, you can see where the two pages meet. There, it goes almost right up to the border of the art in that top panel there. I and then if you look at the right on the corresponding, you can see actually how much of that margin should be there. So that's how much. Not a little bit. Thankfully, this book, it wasn't slopped with glue, but there was enough holding it together that, as you can see there in the after on the bottom there was a little bit of paper loss from the first wrap to remove it.
Absolutely. Let's do a few comments real quick. Jason says, did Hangman and Archie ever hang out? No, I think you're thinking of Punisher and Archie. They hung out. Collection Cast says, people laugh when they find out I collect Archie until I point out that I have Neil Adams' first published comic work in my Archie collection. Interesting. Neil Adams' first So in the 60s, MLJ, which at that point was called Archie Comics, did a little bit of a superhero revival just because the Silver Age was ongoing, and the other comic book companies were also doing superhero revivals. If I'm not mistaken, Neil Adams' very first panel ever is in Adventures of the Fly, which is technically an Archie book, although Archie doesn't appear in it because it was when they did their superhero revival in the Silver Age. But I think Neil Adams' first cover, if I'm not mistaken, is an actual Archie comic, right? Somebody can let us know. All right. Go ahead.
All righty. So the only reason I showed this from the back side first was because that's the only before photo I had before the glue was removed. So this is what it looked like once the glue was removed from the first wrap and the cover. And just like a quick detail on the process, the only way to do this successfully is I had to, and so granted there was also tape. So what I had to do, this wasn't just disassembling the book as was. The tape was covering where the staple was. So what I had to do was kind of cut a little area over where the staple was through the tape without cutting the cover, and then you kind of bend the carrier of the tape over so you can push the staple out through the centerfold. Disassemble that, and then you separate all of the interior except for the first wrap that's glued to the cover, and then you lay it open, and then you can get to work not worrying about the rest of the book. So once everything is removed, you're able to reassemble the book, and now this is the book reassembled. You can see on the right the full length there. You can see in the center where that staple is, and if you handle enough books, you can see how taut that is. So I was actually able, I have some pictures of the spine here. The spine was actually completely split from about a third of the way from the bottom all the way up. All right. Once I so you might be wondering, hey, well, how is that?
What an incredible splash page too. Wow.
Yeah, right.
Oh my gosh. Let's not miss the forest for the trees here.
So here's a picture. I don't have a lot of pictures or really any pictures of the tape being removed. I just have what it looked like after. So if I just go back a couple slides, I just want to show the zoom in on the top left. You can already see where some of the paper color was that green color was kind of compromised. There's kind of a air there. So if you look, once the tape was removed, that little bit of color was really the only color that was lost from the entire length of the spine, which to me, great success. I mean, it looks natural. Your eye doesn't see it halfway down into the green. All those little things make a difference.
Oh yeah.
And
what a beautiful result. Jason wants to know how you remove the glue.
So if you want to go back, there's one of the segments that we did on the show weeks and weeks ago, months ago now, on a Planet Comics 1 that I showed. And I had really good, and well, you know what, in fact, if you want to go ahead and buy that book that Dr. Paul was talking about, that book is featured, the Planet Comics 1 is featured in there, and I have detailed pictures of how I'm showing the book once it's disassembled and how I don't show it actually being done, but I describe how you're basically taking a curved blade and you're carefully scraping away
you're shaving it. Is what you're doing.
Exactly. You're shaving it away. So in cases like this too, you can see here on the back, like when you look at the bottom there, there's no rhyme or reason to how much glue is there. It's always it's a total case by case basis. So just like when you're scraping this away, sometimes you can do it because it's so thin you're really not losing paper, and I've done this enough to know sometimes you will lose paper. There's nothing you can do. So you have to make the decision to take it from the first wrap because you don't want to take it from the cover. That it doesn't, if you have to choose one, you choose the first wrap. So this is also, if I look at a book like this, I know since I've done this enough, that's a telltale sign that this book had glue and the glue was removed. And there's a little bit of damage to the first wrap, but that's much better than damage to the cover, paper missing from the cover.
Yep.
So, and as Larry said, it's being shaved off the top surface of the paper. So
looks great.
There it is for the back cover once all the tape is gone.
Yeah.
So there was a bit of a little bit of staining, but no more tape.
Yeah. And the staining is arrested now. The damage is arrested at this point, and that's the best we can do. The damage was done by the person who put the tape on, not by you.
Yeah. The book was also slightly dry cleaned. It's very innocuous here, but you can see little bits where there was dirt.
Yeah.
It's a little bit cleaner than it was before.
Just looks a little brighter. Yeah.
Now here's the nitty gritty that you get to see that you don't get to see in just the scans, right? So I'll actually go to this photo first so you can work your way down. But so remember I mentioned the spine was totally split from a third of the way all the way up. So really where you can just see on the right side there where it was starting to split, that's where it started. Then it worked all the way up. And if you're looking there, you're like, Phil, it looks like it's pretty split, but not totally split. And that's because what I was able to do was use methyl cellulose only in areas where the paper perfectly touched already. You're like, I put it there as a preventative as I reassembled the book. But the only areas that stayed are areas where it's a perfect lap tear. I was able to do it in areas where all the paper already was. So as you can see there too, the staple I was able to reinsert in the cover and reattach the cover on this copy. And I was able to mend a little bit of the splitting spine. I wasn't able to make anything perfect. I was just doing it as a preventative so the book could be handled without it all being split. So
this is the best you can do if your client wants universal.
Correct.
Yeah, I was just going to say, why
you're pushing the limits of what's acceptable in a universal label is what this is.
Yeah, I was going to say, because they accept tape as is acceptable in universal, and they kind of act a little bit on the gray area with conservation by putting the any mending tissues or Japanese paper or things like that, which I think is kind of unfair. But yeah, this looks great.
In my opinion too, I think that there is a fine line, and there's also a distinction because I've seen books that people get through where they actually are using a technical amount of mending tissue at a staple to reinforce, let's say, and it can come back universal because CGC is grading the book and the graders just aren't able to catch it. It's not nefarious. It's the human element of it. That's a whole different thing, because then, there's a difference between something like that and something like this.
Well, it's just like, okay, if instead of using mending tissue, why don't you just put Scotch tape over it?
Yeah.
And that's the argument against, because we all know that tape is just a disaster to books. And the proper way to do it would be mending tissues and proper sealing of it. But we get dinged as a conservation, while Scotch tape would get a universal.
Yeah. I think over time that'll change.
I think so too.
I think eventually tape will be relegated to restoration. Eventually.
There's that bottom part too. So it was split from the third up, but also there was a little split at the bottom there. So
yeah.
At least now it's got some splitting, but it's able to be handled enough by the graders without, totally splitting and falling apart. That's part of the goal.
Absolutely.
So I think the next slide is the reveal. So I don't want to jump to it. Book came back from CGC. Any guesses on what we think the grade may be? People that like to play the guessing game.
I'm going to say 2.5.
I'm two. I was going to say 2, but it looks really nice. So 2.5, 3. Yeah, 2.
We'll go back. That's the back cover. There's no real pieces missing. There's the front cover after.
It really looks nice. That's why I'm kind of
on the right there.
Yeah.
I mean, aside from the splitting, you got to admit, and the cover's attached, but there's also a little bit of, you have some damage to the first wrap there that does count. A little bit of paper loss on that first wrap that does count.
In the slab, I don't see
nice.
That.
Yeah,
I don't see that in the slab, so I got to look at it at face value like this. I think Paul's spot on, probably 2.5.
I think the range is 2.5 to 3.5.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't go 3.5, but I would 3.5 I would venture to a 3.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying I think that's the reasonable range. There's no chunk missing. So even though the spine is almost completely split, I could see an argument for a good plus on this book.
Mhm.
Would disagree with it, but I wouldn't say you're insane. Is my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have lots of guesses coming in.
Oh yeah.
Jason's at 3.5. Shelby's at 3.0. The professor says 3.6. I'm guessing he's not right. Salesboy at 3.5. Don Carter at 3.5. Black Spiders at 3.0. Oh, welcome to the show, Black Spiders. What's up?
There it is on the right side from the front.
Rick Nestor is with Larry and I at 2.5. And Vulu's also at a 2.5. Anybody else want to guess? Get your guesses in now. We about to reveal.
Dun, 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 dun,
Either way.
Oh.
2.5. There it is.
I think a fair. I was happy with it. I thought that it was very
Well.
fair,
Remind us what it
grade.
started as.
Let's just go back to the beginning too. That's the real fun in this. I haven't got to make one of those fun before and after, but what's that? A 2.5 restored. We expect a grade drop, which is very standard, totally reasonable. But yeah, so to go from a 2.5 C1 to a 2.5 universal, I mean that's a win.
I think it's great.
That's a
Phil, that's
huge
fantastic,
increase in equity, right? That's a 4x in equity right there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
most
so
definitely.
here we go. We got just the standard grader notes, large spine split, and we saw that. Yeah. Spine weak. That's fair. If there's a large spine split, it only goes to say that the spine is weak. The staple is weak. Okay, that's fair. Tape pull entire interior spine. So that's a note that they're grading the book in front of them, and they guessed that there was tape that was removed, and it pulled some of the paper out.
But it was really
Well, you now, Phil,
But it
you don't
wasn't
put
tape.
notes in. Phil, you don't put notes in. I know
Nothing. This book was just submitted in a group of books,
Yeah.
all within one single submission, no notes whatsoever. I just submitted it knowing this will come back universal, just a matter of what the technical grade is going to be.
Yeah.
I was somewhere in the 2 to 3.0 range. I was thinking I was expecting probably a 2 because maybe they handle it a little bit. The spine splits a little bit. I mean, come on. So the people that work on books, right? If you look at this spine and you just want to go ahead and try to give this book a press as you would, and you're like, oh, what's the problem going to be? The problem is, look at the top there. Like that already wants, you just look at that the wrong way, and that's just going to split. So
it wants to split.
Yeah.
And once it splits, this is a 2. It's no longer a 2.5.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So.
Wonderful work.
Yeah, that's great.
Wonderful book.
Thank you.
The owner's got to be absolutely over the moon with this work and with the outcome here.
Yeah,
and,
the submission had a lot of nice before and afters. A lot of nice.
This also can't be a book that has a high census count.
I want to say there's something like under 25 total graded copies. I
Well, it says right there, there's 20 and higher grade.
It says 20 higher, but that's only the universal.
And
so
at the lower grade,
you're going to be somewhere around 25 or 30 total, would be my guess, and probably about 25-ish universal. I mean, what a treasure.
Wait. I just want to highlight this. Story of my life. There's look, I appreciate that. I think that, it's funny because I feel like several of the last books I've shown, when I see people in the comments saying what they think the grade is, it's oftentimes it's a bit higher than what it came back at, but that's also a consensus here from people looking at these books, and so it is what it is. Oftentimes, again, there's such grading is so subjective, and there's like a lot of nuance, and there's so many things you can't see where you look at this in the light and there's a little bit of light staining too or something, and all those little things add up where it can seem like an injustice sometimes, but by and large CGC is pretty consistent. I gotta admit.
Yeah.
Well, absolutely wonderful that you were able to preserve this treasure, and appreciate you sharing it with us. And just for fun, before we move on, what do you think your grade would have maxed out at if you had done a conservation here?
Yeah. Yeah, right. I mean, look at how sharp this book is. I mean, if you were to leave cast the first wrap on that missing paper that was taken from the glue, and then you were to cast or do, I think you could probably just get away with traditional spine split seals here, because there's really no paper
That's
missing.
what I
You
would
wouldn't
do.
need to. So some leaf casting on the first wrap splits here. I mean, geez, how can this book not come back at least a 7? I think that's reasonable. And like,
yeah, I would say
maybe even a bit
minimum
higher.
of a 6. Minimum
And
of a 6.
that's one of those things I think long term. If this was my book, just like I've done with some other books that I have, I would prefer the conserved copy, because it's going to last. Like, it just seems like such a silly thing to leave a book with a split spine when you can conserve it and you're preserving it. It just, I mean, I'm biased because I like to do the work, but especially when you're going to bump the technical grade up that high, that just to me seems like a no-brainer. But yeah,
Sky's the limit.
Looks great.
Beautiful book, nonetheless.
Not 9.8. Hey, and if not, it's CGC.
It's also going to come back as a pedigree. Vulu wants to know if you did a cold press. I'm thinking you did a no press or tack iron.
So prior to these photos here, where you can see a little bit of waviness in the cover, there were some my brain is not working right now, some thumb creases, reader's creases, and just overall creasing on the cover. I did give this a super light humidification spots, and then just a light press, knowing how far I could kind of push the spine, because I was just very careful with how I was approaching it. But beyond that, really nothing crazy.
Cool. All right. Well, that's all we have for you, folks. Thanks for joining us. If you enjoyed the show, please give us a thumbs up. If you did not get your fill of conservation for the week, come check us out in our Facebook conservation community group. Also, not for nothing, but go check out Immaculate Comics. Go check out Archivist Adrift, his channel. Go check out
Shelby's
Boy's channel. Go check out Shelby's channel. Go check out the Professor's channel. Go check out Jerry the Jitterbug's channel. We have this just great community of growing content creators, and really appreciate all of you. Wouldn't have been able to put this together without all of your contributions. Go check out the Captain's channel. Check out Phil on Instagram. Practically all those folks on Instagram. And until next time, take care of one another. Thanks. Bye now.
See you, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in.